Welcome back to Naval Gazing at Camp David. This week's yacht is the big boy from the Marsaudon Composite Yards, the ORC 57. Today, we are going to review its specifications, pricing, and layout against a few other brand new yachts, do a full tour asking what would Sylvia say, Naval Gaze at an innovation or an alteration that might make life a little easier on board, have a look at the used market at 3 to 5 year old comparables, and finally give it a Dave score and compare it to every other yacht that we've looked at so far. Starting high above Vancouver, British Columbia, we fly across the Atlantic to the southeast coast of France and the home of last week's yacht at the Outremer Gunboat yards in the Grande-Motte. From here, we head northwest across France to the old submarine base in Lorient and the yards of Marsaudon Composites, who build the ORC 57. For our wine pairing this week, we head inland and south to Sancerre and the vineyards of Joseph Melot. Our pairing is Joseph Melot Sancerre Le Châtelain 2020. Domaine Joseph Melot is a historical family-owned wine estate which origins go back to 1513. Over the generations, the domain has become a specialist in producing the fine wines of the central Loire Valley vineyards. Its unique savoir-faire has given it the legitimacy to be an ambassador for the wines of the region. Grapes destined for the Joseph Melot white wines are crushed in pneumatic presses. This gives them complete control over both the increase in pressure and the length of press time, enabling them to extract the purest juices. Fermentation lasts 10 to 15 days at a controlled temperature. It takes place in either just Joseph Melot's modern winery or their historic cellar located in the heart of the Sancerre. Oh, that's terrific. Let's go have a look at that boat. Looking at this boat, I mean, as the title says, if Batman had a boat, this would be it. The 57 is an absolutely extraordinary vessel, not to mention whoever they have doing their photo shots is incredibly talented. The length of the hulls, the aggression of the bows, the reverse bows, the different angles on the hull and the way it catches the light, the aggression is incredible. That cabin top, the way it arches and reduces the windage is absolutely extraordinary. This boat makes an impression when you look at it the first time. Okay, moving on to the comparables. We have the Outremer 55, the ORC 57, the Privilege 580, and the Bally 5.4. The latter two comparable only in their lengths. If you can see, the upwind sail area on the ORC is exceptional at 191 square meters given its weight, almost 50 square meters bigger than the Outremer 55, which would be a reasonable comparable, and it's 40 square meters bigger than the Bally 5.4, which is a very heavy boat. Moving on to the cabin top here, you can see those beautiful long extended hulls, the huge nets on the ORC 57, just really bringing the weight down, narrowing out the hulls, exacerbating the length there. But the stance, that wide, aggressive stance, it really is something to behold. Moving into the saloon, you can see this is where you start to pay for it in the ORC 57. You've got quite a small saloon versus any of the others. A large cockpit, but a small saloon. Having said that, it's very bright and airy inside because basically it's all fair fiberglass, so it's all white. Moving then into the hulls themselves, you can see the ORC 57 has surprising breadth to the hulls and especially the aft berth. As I recall, these are a thwart ship, although they're sandwiched in, so you only have access to a single side. You don't feel cramped in the hulls. Again, very bright because you're looking at the inside of the faired hull. There's no extravagance at all other than the extravagance of a very purposeful high-speed yacht. Now, moving to the actual numbers. And again, we've started to add several lines to this so that you can get some better sense technically of the performance capabilities. The Bally 5.4 is the cheapest, bearing in mind this is factory, FOB factory in euros, base price. You probably would never sail away at this price. You add 50 points, which is what we do when we're doing our new comparables and our used comparables. So the 5.4, relatively speaking, you're at 1.12. The next one up is the ORC at 1.195. And then you take a jump of about 150 to the Outremer 55. And it's definitely worth it. You know, you're not getting as fast a boat per se, but you are getting a more balanced world cruiser. Again, Batman isn't terribly worried about luxuries. Moving down then, looking at the length overall, the Privilege 580 is the longest there. And then the air draft, the Privilege 580, again, the highest. The actual draft is the Outremer 55 wins out at the lowest at 4.4 feet. And then moving into the upwind sail area, the Privilege had it at 213, but, you know, again, 29 tons versus 11 tons on the ORC. So the engines, the Privilege had the highest one. The hull type, I would probably give the nod to the ORC. You've got E-glass, vinyl ester, PVC foam core, carbon rib, and composite bulkheads. Moving then into the sail area over displacement, you've got, again, the ORC 57 knocking it out of the park at 39.76. The next closest contender is the Outremer at 28.59. So both of them rated as extreme racing boats. The displacement over length, again, ORC taking it home at a low of 55.57. The next one is the Outremer at 75.04, and to give you a sense of the big boys, you got the Privilege there at 127.69. So obviously both the ORC and the Outremer classified as ultralight. The Bruce number, again, you're in the lead here with the ORC 57 at the highest at 1.58. If you're enjoying the content, please hit subscribe, share this out with a couple of like-minded folks, and give us a like if you could. Thanks so much. Okay, moving on board. What would Sylvia say? Well, Sylvia would love the outside of this, might like some parts of the interior, but it is just too stripped down. This is a passionate boat for a passionate sailor. Look at this seating position. We've talked about this before, but here it's even better. You take the 50 and you add toys to it right there with all your throttles and your plotters and everything there. You got your splash guard. I mean, it's just an extraordinary seating position. Looking down the side, your butt's hanging right over the edge. You got perfect view of the your sails for trim, perfect view up the side of the hull, and you've got all of your controls within easy reach. And of course, you have that fantastic tiller. I can't imagine an experience better than this. Having said that, our friends at HH and their new 52 have taken it to a new level altogether, and we'll have to review that. But, you know, spoiler alert, they've got an internal forward helm and 2 aft helms that hang out over the edge, have the integrated telemetry, and have a beautiful tiller. Carrying on here into the cockpit, you can see it's quite an extensive cockpit. They've done a beautiful job at all their fairing. I'm not a big fan of sort of the bare fiberglass, but they have done a very nice job. Again, me, I'd rather see a solid teak high gloss table, but that's not this kind of boat. At least here, they have solid glass sliding doors as opposed to the 50 where they had the material doors. Moving inside, you're talking the image of sparsity and purposeful build. The odd little trinket like the indirect lighting and the pot lights and the strips. But other than that, this is beautifully faired fiberglass. There's no Corian countertops to weigh you down. You've got handholds everywhere because if you're doing 20 knots, you're going to need to hold on. And, you know, the very stark black sink, really nice forward helm there, although I just hate the idea that you have a stool sitting there. Going to a little naval gazing now. So you're traveling along at 20 knots in your $2 million yacht, and, you know, things are coming at you really fast. I'm a little surprised that more boats like this don't have forward-looking sonar as a standard. Why wouldn't you? The forward-looking sonar is one of the best proven forward-looking sonars, the one we're looking at right here. The FLS 3D displays a three-dimensional representation of the underwater scene ahead of the boat. The seabed terrain and potential hazards are shown for the first time in real-time view with unparalleled realism. You've basically got a 20-to-1 range to depth. So if you're in 1 meter of water, it's giving you views 20 meters out, which is one of the best in the business. The FLS 3D comes with twin retractable transducers to ensure complete forward coverage whatever the hull form. The view ahead is 60 degrees in the horizontal plane and over 90 degrees in the vertical plane. The forward range is up to 200 meters and 100 meters depth. The transducers come in 2 sizes, 5-inch and 10-inch, depending on the size of the hull. The transducers come with 3 different types of skin fittings to ensure that they will fit any type of hull. You can choose between bronze, steel, or aluminum depending on your hull. The importance of forward-looking sonar technology is the depth to range ratio, which I mentioned there. The FLS 3D has a staggering 20 times depth ratio. This means that you will see 100 meters ahead with only 5 meters of water underneath your boat. This is the highest ratio in forward-looking sonar technology. The FLS 3D forward-looking sonar has the groundbreaking technology of real-time forward-looking sonar. The display updates every 1 second, so the captain will always be updated on the seabed terrain and potential hazards ahead. The FLS 3D is also designed as a black box to work with any existing display that has video input. Now, you've got this fantastic yacht. You know, most people say it's not if, it's when you ground it. Why wouldn't you want to avoid that and have this as a standard built-in component, especially of high-end, beautiful yachts like this ORC or the Outremer 55? In fact, I was just watching Great Circle today about them repairing the lost rudder they had by hitting a coral head that they just didn't see. Why would you do that? This seems to be an absolute logical navel gazing addition that really should be offered as a manufacturer's option. So back on board, looking at, again, that nav station and then around your lounge. You've got a nice area over there for a day bed if you want it. A couple of pull-out fridge freezers. Moving down the stairs, of course, there's nothing fancy on these stairs. You know, I like to look at the stairs and a little trim there, but there's nothing. You've got, again, faired vinyl ester fiberglass You've got the separate shower compartment and a separate head compartment. The panels on the floor, if you actually lift them up, they are staggeringly light. Again, they're a cord composite, and it's quite remarkable. You know, for the base look that they're going for, they've done a great job. The black options, the high gloss, it's nice. And your sleeping compartment here has huge light coming in, lots of ventilation. I don't see any hanging storage. So again, this is a French yacht, so maybe they're making sure that their ladies are in bikinis only. And good on ya. But there is this is I guess you're meant to live out of your suitcase and slide it under your bunk. Most of your shelves are open. There's not a lot of wasted weight on closet doors and superfluous nonsense like that. You do have a little settee seat there, but of course there's no cushion on it because we wouldn't want to add that few extra ounces. But you know, again, the light is splashed around by the faired fiberglass inside. Beautiful round escape hatch in the forward berth there that adds a little style to the whole thing. Again, lots of light coming in. The windows are narrow, they're low because the cabin top is arched, probably to reduce your windage on the side. But you still get the sense of a lot of light because of the splash from all the white. You see the bolt throughs, you can see them on the inside. Nothing's covered up here. But it's done with an elegant minimalism to the extreme. I don't mind it. I wouldn't want to live aboard it. But if I could have two, I'd have this and a privilege and be happier than a pig in mud. So again, you've got a nice big aft shower on this hull, beautiful rainfall shower head, and really cool escape hatch round port in the shower itself, giving it a little atmosphere and a little zip. Heading back up to the aft berth. Sorry, that shower compartment wasn't aft. It just looked big enough to be one. Sorry, that was in the bow. This is the aft bed, and they have set these up fore aft. I had thought it was a thwartship, but this is fore aft. But lots of light coming in there. It really looks good. Moving back out into the cockpit, it is a big, bright, spacious cockpit. Lots of room, huge solar panel, carbon davits, that beautiful seating position there. Again, you got obviously dual tillers and nice big sugar scoops with the built-in ladders. We're going to head up the port side hull, and you can see all your handholds. You've got your a couple of solar panels there, nicely integrated. We don't see any exposed wires, anything like that. Obviously, you could put triple the amount of solar on there if you wanted to. You don't have recessed hatches. You have the outboard dagger boards. And of course, we wouldn't want to bother with anything like princess seats on this because this isn't for princesses. This is for Batman. Looking up the mast. Beautiful rigging there, set up with the furler at the bow. Massive long nets and long lean hulls. I love the wrap that they have done on this. I'm not a big one for sort of the matte finish, but this matte finish looks so sexy and so beautiful. Now look at those forward windshields. You know, again, everything looks so sleek the way they've slimmed them down. Walking up the side, look at the shape, the chiseled shape of the hull top. It just adds such flair to the whole feeling of the boat. And as you walk forward, I mean, the thing looks like it's screaming along at 150 miles an hour just sitting at its berth. It really is an absolutely beautiful yacht, and I can see how a passionate sailor couldn't deal with anything other than this boat because it is so specifically built for speed and joy and the absolute extravagance of pure sailing pleasure. Pre-owned comparables. Our first one is the Outremer 2019 5X. This is a big boat. Remember, our sail away price, if we do our standard, is add 50% to the base. So we're looking at about 1.8 million USD for a new ORC 57. The Outremer 2019 is 1.829, so almost exactly the same price. And yeah, I do the Outremer, even though it's 3 years old. You know, it's my taste. I could never get Sylvia to live on the ORC 57. If I could have two, I would definitely have it. Next boat is our Ocean Explorer catamaran. It's quite an exotic beast, and it's looking at 3 million against our 1.8. It's a 2017. Now, Ocean Explorer is a real exotic. Yeah, if I had the money, yeah, I'd probably go for the Ocean Explorer because of what I'm interested in doing, but I could never justify the difference because the ORC is such an extraordinary piece of technical equipment. Finally, we're looking at something completely different, and that's a 2019 Privilege Series 5 at 56 feet. So they're looking 1.5 US on this one for a 2019 versus the ORC at 1.8. Obviously, I would, for my applications, would be taking the Privilege, although crying quietly that I didn't have the speed or the fun of the ORC. Okay, moving to the Dave score. How did she all line up? And I'd like to remind you, you can participate in the Dave score by going into the description and clicking on the link to the Dave Score survey. And please feel free to fill it in and give me your thoughts. So here we are, the ORC 57, just ahead of the ORC 50, of course, bearing in mind, regardless of the passions and the excitement I feel when I look at these wonderful ORCs, guys, keep doing what you're doing. It's not my gig. I'd never get Sylvia on board it, although I'd love to have another one in the garage at home. The interior elegance, of course, it's your definition of elegance, but my definition is glossy wood and leather and stitching. So for this case, it's a 3, but if you are a minimalist modernist, you'd double, triple that. The exterior, I gave it an 8, if not a 9. I mean, the elegance of the exterior. This is a beautiful, beautiful boat. It doesn't have the soft features you'd like to see, say, you know, the forward cockpit and all that sort of stuff. But even without that, it's such a sexy beast. Comfort. Interior, I give it a 4. The exterior, I give it a 4. There's just, you know, the basics there, other than those extraordinary captain seats. Quality, I give it a 7, maybe an 8. The performance, obviously a 9. The lazy sailor, it's a 5. There's no lazy sailor is going to buy a boat like this, and it's not meant for that. It's meant to have you work in it. And the condo, of course, it's a 4. It's not a condo. It's a purpose-built Formula One race car on water. And the geek score, 9, because it is a boat for geeks. I mean, it is just fabulous. A value for the money, I'll give it a 6. Again, so subjective. If I'm a passionate sailor in it for the joy, that value for money would be off the charts. It would be a 10, it would be 11. But for my purposes, it's about a 6. So these scores are all very subjective and very specific. Moving to our art of the region. This week, our art stop is with Theodore Roussel, 1847 to 1926, and his painting Twilight. Theodore Roussel was born in Lorient, Brittany, France, having fought in the Franco-Prussian War. Roussel moved to England in 1870. He settled in London and shared a studio with Percy Jacob Hood and Thomas Henry in Chelsea. In 1891, Roussel moved to Parsons Green, Fulham, and continued to paint aesthetic landscapes and portraits, as well as producing many excellent etchings. Roussel died in St. Leonards-on-Sea in 1926, and a memorial exhibition of his work was held in the following year at Goupil Gallery, London. More than 30 of his pictures were included in the London Impressionist exhibition at the Michael Parkin Gallery, London in 1975. I hope you enjoy it. I love the heavy strokes and the thickness of his style here. It reminds me a little bit of Van Gogh, and I love Van Gogh, but I love the sense and the feel and the motion in this. That's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. This week's has been a play of passion, let's say. It's a yacht that people who love to sail would love to sail. There are no excuses, there are no shortcuts, there's no extravagance to this other than the extravagance of sailing and speed. So if that's your gig, I really hope you enjoyed this week, and I hope the guys at Marsaudon Composites keep on doing what they're doing. I think they do a lovely job. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next week.